excellence, one of the most valuable hours of your day. My name is Dennis, and I'll be guiding you through today's adventure. Today's show, Finding Freedom in What You Love. Let's meet each of our fabulous hosts. Today we have Agnieszka, our psychosomatic illuminator.
Hi, nice to be here.
We have Willow, our trauma consultant.
Hi, everyone.
Then there's Deidre, our development strategist.
Hey, really glad you're here.
And Michael, our opportunity ambassador.
Hello, everybody. Welcome.
And as we have a full house today, we also have Tim, our expert and executive analyst.
Hi, guys. Great to see you.
And if you are viewing live and have a question, please feel free to input. Give us your feedback at any time. We are very happy about that. Today, again, I brought a quote, which is from Ramana Maharishi. The very fact that we wish for liberation shows that freedom from all bondage is our real nature. It's not to be freshly acquired. All that is necessary is to get rid of the false notion that we are bound. And
Nice.
That being said, let's recap about how we started this week, which was with the first show, Ready for Full Spectrum Freedom. We discussed, we introduced freedom. We talked about what freedom meant for us. And we had an exercise that was the spoke exercise. And the second show of the week was how to really free yourself. And we talked about wheels, and we talked about how we can use this concept of a wheel with those parts of the wheel, the rim, the spokes, and the hub, and how we can utilize that concept to kind of figure out where we are, where we're going, and also what kind of components, what kind of aspects of our beings actually are there, and how we can utilize, how we can become aware of those aspects of our being, and how we can utilize them to advance on our individual journey towards freedom, towards liberation. And today we are going to really tap more into what it means for us individually to free ourselves. And I was really just planning to maybe give a little example, and then for us together as a group to look into it, so that we can get instead of it just being me or somebody giving his or her opinion, that we kind of do a little co-creation and chime in each one with some ideas and with our unique perspectives, and see if we can maybe run through a few examples of how we could really apply this strategy of a wheel in order to advance on our individual journeys. So as a first example, I thought maybe we could just imagine that something that you really love to do. We started out the entire week of what it is that makes you feel free, what frees you, what comes effortless to you, what is the thing for you in life. And the idea was to pinpoint one of those things and focus on that. And let's just assume that your thing would be to spend time with family. Some of us have children, some of us have big families, some of us have smaller families. And let's assume that the thing you love most in life is just to spend time with family. And then let's imagine the image of the wheel, and we feel free, we feel totally in balance, in harmony when we're together with our family and spend time with our family. And let's put that in the middle of the wheel, in the hub. So that's our hub. So how can we address the spokes? And let's just, to start with, address the 5 spokes that we initially discussed.
Can we make a caveat, like we like spending time with our family as long as they're not in the crazy times or moments?
That would reduce the time up to a little bit.
Or specific, like a cut down list of family members, like only the ones you like the most.
Oh no, I like my mom, but only when she's in a certain,
So what would you say? Let's start with the first one. The first spoke that we discussed was the physical one, right? So if the thing that you love the most is spending time with your family, how could that be? How could that help you to achieve freedom, to free yourself, to liberate yourself on a physical level? Because at first it's like, family, physical. I'm not sure. Maybe for some people it is, but at first, it wouldn't come to my mind that that's something that really will help me to improve my journey and to bring me closer to my goals on a physical level. Do you guys have any
I'll chime in
ideas?
on that.
Mhm.
I had a situation. My father had some medical issues, and so we decided, uh, to basically meet at the gym every so often, and just go through the gym. But in doing that, it actually helped us both. In fact, a couple other family members jumped in too, you know, and we all went to the gym together on a regular basis, basically, trying to help my father out. But it ended up helping us all out.
Wow, nice one. Perfect example right there. I love it. Does anybody else have an idea whether it's something that you would have experienced or that you can imagine, something that could be, or how you, could design that in order to, advance you on your physical journey?
I'm reminded of the mirroring technique. It's got a fancier word, but mirroring is the most important, the definitive, defining aspect word of it. It's how young infants learn how to use their own body. They watch their biological parents move their bodies, and then they try to imitate. And that is like, it's really important for your spatial awareness and your hand-eye, like your motor skill, your fine motor skills. If you don't know how to use your own body, that reminds me of like a duck that is raised by dogs, or like a litter of a cat takes in a puppy and it thinks that it's a cat, or vice versa. Those animals tend to walk or act like the thing that they imprinted on, basically, and so do humans in a way. So I think spending time with your family and actually like playing, being in tune with what's going on, having like an ebb and a flow to the physical playing aspect is really important. Even when your playing just consists of like peekaboo and reading the cues, the physical cues on a baby's face that they want you to stop, or they want you to keep going, or maybe whatever they're feeling. That's really important, and it translates. There's a term for this, like the result is so much bigger. The impact is so much bigger on the physical level. That's what it reminds me of.
Nice. That's super useful information. And it just while we're talking, it really encourages me to, or since one of the things that I love is capoeira. So of course I would love to encourage my children also, to take part in that, but without forcing them. So knowing what you just explained, it's like, whoa, wow. So the better I am, the more I move, the more active I am. That means that even if I don't, force them or encourage them actively to participate, but just by them witnessing or being close, or watching me, how I move, what I do, that will already imprint on them and will impact them in some kind of way. So that will encourage me even more to, give my best and just live out that side, which is something I love and which will advance me towards my goal, certainly.
Yeah, and it's not something that can only be learned in childhood. I use the same technique in my jujitsu classes. I pick out someone who I can see I could feel it when they have rolled with me, and I can see in their actions, and I'll just watch them over and over again. I'm like, that's how they're moving their body. How are they moving their body like that? And then just keep testing it out for myself until I feel it click. So it's definitely something you can use as an adult as well.
Just yesterday, I had a great example, I think, for that physical aspect, because because classes are down because of the whole virus thing. So no students are coming here for classes. No children are there. Usually I have like a few days per week. Like I have a bunch of children here running all over the place, And so we don't have that, but the parents have been saying, oh, everybody's doing videos, you should do a video too and stuff. And so yesterday, we took more than half a day actually, my son, my daughter, and myself, and we started to do a little video, like a class. We recorded a class and we added like some funny stuff to it. So that was like a way of how I could, really, maybe not only on the physical part, because it's also like a learning lesson for me in terms of the video thing and how to kind of stage it and set it up, but also how to work with my daughter and how to prep her and how to make sure everything comes out nice. But I can see that was an interaction also, which was really focused on the physical, and where I would have to utilize my skill and also improve my skills on that level in order to advance myself. But at the same time, I was able to combine that with quality family time. So I would put that in as an example. Does anybody else can see a way how to combine your physical journey with family time?
So Dennis, last week we were at the beach and the waves were very rough, and the whole family was in the water, and the waves were breaking on not close to the shore. They were pretty high. We were all kind of dodging the waves, and we were kind of bouncing up and down, diving under the waves, getting smacked in the face, coming back up. And I was thinking that you have to pay attention and go with the flow and be in the moment. Otherwise, you'll be run over. And the combination of the sun and the sand and the wind took all of the energy out of you in the water over time. So it ended up being the perfect 2 or 3 hours of a day to take all the angst and energy out of you, and then you could sleep very well and have a nice meal. And it was very pleasant. And I was thinking that didn't really cost anything other than getting there. So there are so many things that don't really cost us anything that we can do outdoors that have that physical, familial, and spiritual connection that you can build. So I'm looking for more opportunities like that.
Nice one. Yeah, perfect example. What could be better than a day at the beach with the family? Wow. Shall we move on to the next one, to the emotional level? How could family time, spending time with family, if that's your thing, if that's what you love to do the most, and you feel that's just all you really want to do, and then how can that improve your emotional experience? How can that move you towards your individual goal of realizing yourself on an emotional level?
Ensuring good interactions with your family builds that bond, right? So when we have a good time and everything is aligned or smooth, I guess, how do you say that? It deepens the connection. And
if it's not, it's a huge challenge on a daily basis, like when a 3-year-old is screaming at you and you want to scream back.
Well,
so that as well, that's also like a challenge, then keep your emotions like under wrap, or use them wisely. And so that's something I experience like often lately. So it works on both scales
I was gonna comment about how Agnieszka said, like, it's important to maintain those social bonds and ensure good memories is what ensure good interactions, I think was your exact wording. I don't disagree with that. I think that you should try to ensure good interactions with your family members. I struggle with this because, and a lot of people I know struggle with this, there's a lot of people who have family members who use that against you. And not just family members, people in their life who use your need and your desire to ensure good interactions as blackmail against you.
Yeah, but that's like, you don't have to eat those cookies.
And that's
Can I,
like,
do you have an example? It just made up one even.
I'm trying to think exactly.
Like when they emotionally blackmail you and they say they're going to be upset if you don't do what they say or something like that.
So this is a common thing with people who have abusive parents, because usually if you have a serious CPTSD, a lot of times your parent was also traumatized. It's just a fact, like that seems to be a common correlation. And parents will freak out and have a triggering moment because their child is asking them something, and then they blame it on the child. You don't get to ask me that. You made me feel that way. You upset me to the point where I could not control myself, and that is not okay. So then the child gets used to managing their parents' emotions and avoiding triggering their parents versus having actual good interactions, because a good interaction to that parent is them not being triggered.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people do this unconsciously, and then there's a lot of people who are like kind of there. They know what they're doing, and they know that they're trying to control everything around them so that they don't have to face their own abuse. But I have a lot of friends who are dealing with this from their family members, where they're trying to talk to their parents about their abuse and their trauma, and because the parents have some sort of fault or perceived shame about it, they tend to freak out. Like, how dare you try to recover from something that never even happened? I can't believe you would do that to me.
So how could that life lesson become something that, instead of blocking you and keeping you in the same spot, you know, how could you overcome that hurdle? And even though you're facing that situation, and for instance, if you would, you know, wear those shoes for a moment, and then your parents kind of blocking it off and not getting it, but how could that, which is a situation I think many are really facing on you know, different levels, but how could we overcome that hurdle and still progress on our path towards, you know, our individual liberation on an emotional level?
My tactic is, when they get to that point where they're like, for example, hypothetical situation, someone has an abusive parent who is, they're trying to work it out, and the child does not want to really talk about it right now. They're not ready to have that conversation. They know it's going to turn bad, and they're feeling very fearful of having the conversation, but they also feel very fearful of not having the conversation. And I tell my clients and my friends, if this was your child and they were coming to you and they said, someone hurt me emotionally, physically, it doesn't matter, and you can't do anything about it. You can't go take care of the situation yourself. All you can do is be there for your child. What are you going to say to your child in that moment of what's your advice? And every time I ask my clients this, they say something along the lines of, do it when you feel comfortable. Take the time to heal that you need, and you don't have to be around this person even if you feel like you should. Sometimes it's more important to take care of yourself. Almost every single time they give themselves and actually I learned this from Agnieszka, because she started doing the what would you say to 4-year-old Sam, and then I started imagining like a 4-year-old me hanging around, and I was like, I'm so mean, I need to stop. And
You know me.
it helped, because there were some situations where I was like, what would I do in this situation? And I would freak out and be like, well, I'd back down. I wouldn't stand up for myself. And then if someone asked me, well, what if it was your child asking you the advice? And I'd be like, oh, hell no. No, you stand up for yourself. This is not right. Like, it was not even a question about whether this was okay to do to someone else. And when you kind of like separate it and you make it someone else, it adds a different layer of responsibility sometimes that helps. That's my tactic.
I would add something. You know, I think there's another way that you could approach that, and that is use the people that are, you know, much easier first, and develop a practice for, you know, meaningfully communicating with the people that you can have, you know, good emotional attachment to, and are like, you know, experiencing a relationship where you've got, you know, something that you're having fun with, or, you know, essentially, you know, I think one of the examples I use is like when I'm doing business, the idea is to always win, you know, win-win situation, right? Everybody wins. And that means if we're having fun, everything is going well, you know. But if something is going wrong, well, a lot of people can't deal with that. A lot of people can't do business and have fun all the time. They start to realize, you know, there's got to be a hard time. and it's like, well, no, actually, no, there doesn't have to be a hard time. What are you struggling with? But like being able to take those situations and turn those into positives and then see how that works can get people's confidence up. So then when they encounter someone that has a lot more, strings attached, they have a lot more confidence to, represent themselves better.
I
I
think,
think it.
sorry.
Go on.
I
Go on,
think
please.
I think a lot of baby boomers grew up with that idea that things don't come easy. It has to be hard in order to be meaningful. If you don't work hard at it, you shouldn't. It's not worth trying or whatever. And those are all fallacies that are unsubstantiated. But that's what they were imprinted with, like Sam says.
I don't. I think that I don't disagree with that, but I think instead of it being like, oh, everything that you work for is going to be hard, I agree with that. I think that if it's not hard, it's probably not worth it. But
Raise the consciousness.
the boomer mentality, and this is a generalization. This is not every single person. The mentality of it has to be painful. It has to be suffering. You have to give up everything and suffer all this trauma basically, and then you get to like chill out and handle it. And I don't agree with that. Like there's a lot of older generations who they're dealing with their trauma in the best way that they know how.
Well, we all are. Hey, by the way,
they accept it as normal.
Yeah.
And it's really quite painful. I don't think that's good.
Well, coming back to the.
Hang on. We got a shout out to the listener, Nano, who says, this is great. Thanks very much. If you like it, you can subscribe, Facebook, Periscope, or YouTube. 7:30, Monday,
Sweet.
Wednesday, Thursday.
Also, what's your favorite part?
Thank you.
He said love it. Or she.
So coming back full circle to finding freedom with what you love, assuming we love to be with family and you want to find freedom through that, but we didn't really, we weren't really aware of the fact that, actually, when we're with family, it's not just we are there for the family and it's important that they are well and so, but it's actually about us as well, because this experience, this life is really about us, without being selfish. But, if we are not in balance, if we're not well, then how can we be, how can we be helpful or uplift anybody around us? So what I'm hearing also is that sometimes it seems that others, the opinions of others or the well-being of others, we kind of tend to put them before even ourselves. And that is when we start to actually do things that we don't really love to do. And then, the worst thing is if we grow older and then we look left and right and we look at our life and we say, geez, I'm like, we spend the whole day, we spend the week, we spend the month, we spend the entire year mostly doing things that we don't really love to do. That's not really our purpose. We're not developing our highest potential because we keep on doing things actually for others, or because we think we have to, because we were told, because society expects us to do so. But it's not really, we're missing the target by far oftentimes. And the saddest thing is, when, talking to older people that are, towards the end of this life experience, and when you get, that feeling of sadness or that feeling of, having missed something. And it's also very interesting then, because then a lot of people really start to reflect about it. And oftentimes you see like a change in the transition of them, of how they, how they posture themselves and how they see, how they look at life. And it's very interesting then to find out from people who are more advanced in age, what they feel that they missed or what they would have done more in their lives. So in order for us to figure out that right away, that is really the game of what we're playing right now. Is like, okay, assuming we are somebody who loves most to spend time with family, but it's like, but how are you going to earn your money? But how are you going to be physically well and physically fit? And how you what about your other social relationships and all those other aspects that we have talked about? And I think, because of time, it might be better to kind of open the floor right now and just for a few minutes more stay with that example of somebody who loves being with family the most, but then, just chime in from any of those 5 spokes that we have been touching upon for the earlier part of the week. And just we have covered the physical, we have covered the emotional, The next one would be the social aspects. How could that,
I have something on social.
Please.
Yeah, so with social interactions, like building meaningful relationships, they have done studies on that. So with the interactions, positive interactions, so there's like a ratio. I think it's like 5 positive interactions with somebody else as to one, like, not so positive. I don't even like calling it negative, because it's just like, oh well, if I have criticisms, is that negative? Okay, yeah, I didn't like what you did. That's considered like I'm questioning how something was done, not so much you as a person. It's more like the behavior kind of was too much. I don't know. Is that a negative interaction? I'm not sure. What do you guys think?
Those are the labels we give it, right? But sometimes something that we label negative today, it might be the best thing in our life 5 years from now if you look back, because it made us think and act a way that, really opens a door later on in life. I thought Tim's example was great from before, going to the beach. It's like, oh, I don't have to go to the beach only with my family. I might, join with other friends there. I might, really through the friends of my children, or through neighbors, or through other people, that gather around, I might really amplify my social network, and again, kind of kill two birds with a stone. Spend quality time with my family, but also extend my social network and build new relationships with people through my family. So I think there are many ways of combining that, and that will then again really bring me closer to my goal. Mm-hmm.
I like to socialize with my children. I feel like that's teaching them. They're practicing on me. Like if they say something rude, I'll let them know. If they, are kind, I'll let them know that too. So yeah, I guess I do practice socializing with my family.
Well, there's also an opportunity to actually integrate with their social circles too. And that's another one that I think a lot of parents and certainly families miss, is the opportunity to really kind of understand, because like they say, the 5 closest people are the ones that determine who you are. So it's really important to, like, get the children off on the right foot by introducing them to the kind of people that can influence them in a good way, or steer them towards understanding how that could be useful to them, in regard to who they choose as their closest friends and confidants and so forth. How to trust people, why is trustworthiness valuable, those kind of things. And that's through interacting in a social setting where we mesh our networks and actually cross pollinate the groups that we have around us.
So Michael, this is a perfect example of cross-pollinating. I mean, we have people from all over the world. And another experience that we had on vacation was we went to see an online friend from Autonomy, and I brought my wife and daughter sight unseen to meet this woman.
Yeah.
Just having faith that our online interactions were true, and my experience of her was right, and they had a wonderful time. So I was rewarded by getting to witness that and observe and bring them into that relationship. So
Awesome.
that was really special.
But it's not like Hedda Marie was a stranger. We've known her for a really long time.
She was a stranger to my wife and daughter. And they don't always think the way I do, I've found.
I know, it's strangest thing. My family doesn't
Up
either.
with that.
But this is where you found some common ground, I'm sure. That's also a plus.
Yeah, it was really nice.
Who would not love Hedda Marie?
I have an input like on the intellectual level, which is something we haven't touched upon yet, because even lately spending time with my daughter, who's just 6 years old, and the very astute questions she sometimes might ask, which might sound simple, but which really are profound, when children ask questions, and that really leads me to, like I could say, whatever, I give a simple answer and pretend that I know. But then if I really go for it and then have to admit, well, I don't really actually know, but like, I can find out. And then, let's go research, let's go check out a book, let me go look it up on the internet. And so that is something where I can advance my own intellectual development, so to speak, and and be humble and open enough to do that, with her together. So that's something where again, it's like family time, but at the same time, it is helping me to improve my my knowledge and my intellectual development as well.
That's so important. That's so vital. There's a theory out there, and it's called social learning theory. And so that's essentially what you're doing, is you're showing her the appropriate way to use the internet, let's say, okay, would be to research and look up stuff that she needs to know. There's other things to use it for other than just entertainment.
What was that term you used again?
It's called social learning theory.
Social learning theory.
So it's basically, I can't remember off the top of my head right now. I've been awake for a while. I've kind of like worn down a bit. So basically it's saying that because human beings are social mammals, we learn through like what mimicking is one behavior aspect of social learning. There's also there's another term basically where just by me watching you change a tire, I don't necessarily have to I don't have to ask you to do that, because I can map that out myself in my brain. So that's different to mimicking.
So is anyone here? I didn't mean to cut you off. That just
No, I finished.
made me think of Doctor Who. Has anyone watched that?
Which episode?
Not since
There is
1976.
Yeah, there's one episode where they're in, I think it's World War II. All the children are like running and like scavenging off the dinner table during bomb raids. And this, I guess I can spoil it because it's really old anyways. It ends up being this girl's son, but she says that it's her little brother, and he's got a gas mask attached to his face. Like it's what's the word?
It ends up being his face, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's fused to his face. And all of the people who die in a certain area, I think, they all have this problem. And come to find out, it was actually, I don't know if it was aliens or if it was technology, but it was some sort of technology where it could rebuild the body. And that's what it thought when these nano things, they're called nano something, when these nano things touched the boy, they thought that the gas mask was part of him, so they fused it all together and they tried to fix him. And at the end, they meet her mother, and she says, "This is my son." She finally admits that it's her son, and she's holding him, and then the nano things come out, and you can see them looking at the mother and looking at the child and going back and forth, because they're reading the fact that, oh, this is what a human looks like. We got it wrong. And they fixed all of the patients who had died, and the gas mask had fused to their face because of these mirroring nano things. And that's what, when I heard about mirror neurons, actually is what they're called in the brain, that's what it reminded me of, is like the brain sees an adult or sees other people around you, and then it's like, oh, this is what is supposed to be, and it writes your map so that you can be that. And if it gets it wrong, you're gonna have the wrong fixing done. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you said it well.
Nice one. One aspect we haven't covered so far. Can anybody see how being with your family, being with family time all the while, can potentially improve your spiritual experience, or your experience as a spiritual being, or can bring you closer to your goal of spiritual self-realization?
Yes, my kids make me aware of it every time. They give me spiritual enlightenment for patience.
So I think the connection of the different generations, when you see that your great grandparents pass, and then your parents begin to get older, and your children grow up. You can see the kind of the great chain of civilization marching forward, and recognizing that we're just kind of sandwiched for a brief time between the infinity of before birth and after death. And that's pretty spiritual recognition. So what are we afraid of? And we should live life to the fullest.
Yeah, nice. Well, very well said. I have it quite often, and especially, yeah, since my two children being around, it's almost like grace pouring over on a daily basis. It's like sometimes it's just a laugh or just looking at them, and it's like, wow, like it beams me somewhere else, and it makes me really grateful and appreciative, and like I feel whatever there is around, whether it's trouble or rain or sunshine or whatever it be, but it brings me to a space that is just beyond the physicality of the space I am physically standing in. So those moments have been plentiful since those two little ones are around, and that's something really, I'm very grateful for, and it happens all the while.
I can't really relate personally because I don't have any children. I did help raise my nephew for like 3 years, day in, day out. So I had a good chunk of that. I've been around a lot of kids ever since. But every person that I have talked to that I respect, they have this reverence when they talk about a spiritual experience. It's spoken about in the same tone and the same reverence. Their vocal cords make the same tone as when they talk about like their children being born, or the fact that their children just learned something. And I just think about like the ability to recognize inherent potential or inherent value in a being that has no use whatsoever. A baby cannot do anything. In fact, they probably make your life a lot harder. But there's some inherent value, and if you're not going to call that a spiritual experience, I don't know what. I have no reference for what a spiritual experience would feel like, to be honest. That's the closest thing that I can imagine.
Nice. So at this point, I would like to invite you to share example from your own experience, like something that you really love, that you enjoy, maybe something that you noted during the first session, how you would define freedom for yourself, one of the things that are really important and dear to your heart, that make you feel effortless, that you feel, that's one of those things that really bring me home, where really I'm at home and where I'm at ease. And then maybe we could just go through that and see how you maybe scratch upon some of those 5 spokes of those aspects. And you could even add the financial one, which I think we didn't really particularly touch upon that, but that's one that's very important to people as well. In our previous example would be, how can family time relate to me coming closer to my financial goal or to my economic development. And I can see a few ways how to do that as well. And maybe I mentioned just one example from my own experience, which of course would be capoeira, which was something that I started as a physical martial art, but then it developed, and gradually it became very clear to me that that's not something I just want to do, but it's something I want to be, I want to live. And then I recognize that, wow, it's not really just like a workout, it's much more than that. Or there's a philosophy, there's a culture, there's social aspect. I travel the world, I meet people from all walks of life. So it became like this huge thing, and it took over more and more, it seems of my life, and in a positive way. And so it really, and eventually, like, they even recognized, oh, there's even something that you can call spiritual aspects, not because it asks you to do any of that, but just it naturally became that as well for me. and it ended up being really like a, I guess I could call it like a philosophy of life for me eventually. And what I realized is that at the core of that is freedom, is my longing for freedom, and not only like freeing myself physically and being strong and flexible and healthy, but also that sense of freedom that it gives me from all the other spokes as well, on a social level. Like I'm free to express myself. I learn to to connect with other people from all walks of life, from different parts of the planet. So it really liberated me on so many levels. Then that would be one of the first examples from my experience I could really come up with and I would share. And then later on I realized that actually all the other things that are really important in my life do the same. So my family is of course very important. um, then there's permaculture that also really covered all those aspects, and that really gives me opportunity also to develop myself um, on all those spokes and to get closer to the hub, to that sense of freedom in the middle of the wheel. And yeah, so those would be a few things in my life that really, that all seem to lead to freedom and liberation. And it brings me much joy to see and to find how the things that come into my life and that really become important for me in my life, how they in the end all seem to point towards freedom and liberation. And then it becomes like like even like a game to say, oh, how that was really tough, or that was really hard, but there must be some kind of lesson behind it, like how that can help me to advance on which of those spokes is it, or is it maybe a spoke that I haven't looked at before, and how can I use it, and how can I use it to advance on my journey, on my individual journey. So not sure if any one of you has an idea or
I,
want to
I've
share something.
I've got something. I would say, and it kind of relates to like the spirituality is synchronicity.
Hmm.
I think in a lot of cases when we're doing something that really, we've got our heart into, and other people can get their heart into too. A lot of things happen that are, synchronous, and it is one in which like magic, if you want to call it that, happens. But I think a lot of people could relate that to that spiritual feeling that there's something more, there's something beyond me that is happening as well. And I think I think that's a real good way to kind of leverage the understanding of spirituality in a much more positive way, because you start to see how it could be valuable, and like creating value could be something that we just kind of do together, that we just come together and boom, all of a sudden we've got value. Oh, and then we can translate that into financial or whatever, quality of life. um, that
It's
can make a big difference.
it's true, and it reminds me of something that Tim said right at the beginning, which I feel like hit the nail on the head as well, which was when you went to the beach, I was in a moment, it brought me right back to the present moment. And that seems an essential part of it, because all those different aspects, those different spokes, the whole holistic approach, the seeing us as holistic beings, and seeing how those things that we love to do, the essence really is that they put you back in the moment, and you're not like gone with your mind, or like you're distracted by your emotions or by anything else, but you're right here and right now, and you can see an opportunity that was there before, but you were not able to see it because you did not have the awareness, or you did not have you were just not in the right, you didn't have the right posture, or that you didn't look from the proper perspective in order to see that opportunity. So really the idea of this little tool of the wheels and everything that we touched upon during the last few shows, and this one is really to it's really just a point, it's really just a hint that there are those opportunities, and whether it's this tool, and there's many others as well, but whichever it is and whichever works for you, the idea is for it to really open up a window that might have been closed before, and for you to help you to take that posture in life, that you can see that, oh, although there's a hurdle, but there's a light behind that hurdle, and there's an opportunity as well, and there's an opportunity of growth, even if things might look harsh, or might look dark for the moment. And I just before the show, I was thinking about another example as well. What if raising excellence was the only thing I really love and the only thing I really want to do in my life, could raising excellence, what brought us together, could that, provide us with all those different aspects and provide us with growth, or then even on a different level?
Absolutely.
Yes, I think so too.
Absolutely. I love attending the podcast. Whenever I have to not attend because it's, crossed with meetings or something or appointments that I need to do, or I'm just not feeling well, I always get down and then I get like pumped up because I get to attend. It's like pumps my day up for me.
Both.
Is there a difference? What's the difference?
We're giving because we're giving. That's what pumps me up, because I'm giving a lot.
So
Do you think so? I don't know.
I came to this conclusion. This actually helps answer the question, because when Dennis was asking, like, what is the middle of your wheel? My brain wanted to be like, yeah, resolving people's trauma is fun and all, but let's talk about singing. Let's talk about how that makes you feel free. So finally, I actually get to tie this into like trauma consulting and healing.
You're going to tie it in anyway.
Yeah.
Let's not go there. Let's talk about singing, but I'm going to tie it in anyway.
I started out doing this. I started out talking to my friends and trying to fix them, giving them advice, and really honing my skill, because I was actually selfish. I didn't know what the hell was going on with me. I didn't know why I was doing the things that I was doing, and I couldn't let anybody know. I really had to hide it. So I would just pretend I knew. I'd be like, what are you talking about? I'm a normal person. I've had everything normal happen to me. Thank you. And then all of a sudden, people started coming up and asking me advice. And I was like, oh shit. I actually I can't like screw people over because I'm pretending. That's an awful thing to do. So then I was like, well, I guess I better learn about how to, and I just started listening to people. And it took me up until probably this past year to realize that that is my skill. I am really good at helping other people, and I need to help other people because it helps me figure out myself. So ultimately, yes, I am doing this for myself. It is completely selfish. I'm using everybody else as a guinea pig to try and figure out more information about life that might help me. But by default, me going after something that I need and I want and I desire above everything else actually helps people.
If you had to point out 1 second, one spoke out of that. One spoke that so far that one skill that you just described, and which is what fulfills you and which is what you love. Which of the 5 spokes, or even more if you have others, would that have not impacted as much as you would have loved to see so far? Which would have been the spoke that you didn't advance upon yet?
I have one that pops up in my mind, and I don't know how my reaction is going to be to this, because right now it feels like there's like an energy ball doing this in my chest. So I might, like, my voice might break. It might make me upset for a second, but it's okay. Social. That's social for me, because for a very long time, I based my value and my worth off of what I could bring to other people, if I can make their life better. And that's still saying it like stops me in my tracks, and I'm like, oh, that's not so healthy. But it provides a lot of healthy social what's the word, encouragement now to actually be free, because I myself find value in the fact that I can help other people versus just depending on how valuable I was to that one person. Like, now if I got a client who was dissatisfied with me, I would be upset about it, because I'd be like, I'm very sorry that I couldn't do that for you. But it wouldn't be like, oh, it's because you're a fake, because you're, or whatever the reason would have been before. It would have been my fault. And now I would be able to be like, okay, maybe there's a reason. Maybe I didn't do a good enough job. Maybe you're kind of being whiny.
Well, maybe they're
I wouldn't
just.
say it like that, but like I could differentiate between, like,
But maybe they're just not your student.
I would say that.
Maybe they're just not you're not their teacher. They're not your student, and that's totally fine.
Yeah,
But then it's basically the design. You would think about how to design that thing that you already love and already do well, and how to design it so that it can improve that social experience or that social aspect of your being.
I love how you put that, Agnieszka. I don't feel compelled anymore to be everyone's teacher. And I did. I loved it. I loved being center of attention.
But some people may not like you.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that
That's
now.
okay.
But I used to not be at all because I based my value off of how well I could help you. So if I couldn't help you, it was not making me feel all that great, and therefore you were not making me feel all that great, and you need to leave.
But you helped me personally, so that was cool.
I'm glad.
But sorry,
It's
Deidre, I
actually-
cut you off earlier.
I've
What were you
noticed.
going to say?
Sorry.
No, it's okay. She does. You do help. You help so much, Willow. Always. Even when you're tired. I remember having, I don't know, something was going on. You're like, yep, I'll just be there in 2 seconds. I'm driving right now, but I will give you a quick call. So that's like at what level that she does help. She is incredible, and she's so patient. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, with the giving, isn't that so? Being a provider, a service provider, we offer services. It's really, I find that when I tell people that especially if they provide a product, something tangible, they kind of like almost roll their eyes because I don't know, maybe it's not considered as working, as giving. So I relate that to when you said, oh well, I'm being selfish. By helping you, I can help. It helps me understand myself. That's that feedback that I've been mentioning before as well. And it is still giving. Even if you are giving it in a way to help yourself. Wouldn't a farmer, if I was growing my own produce and I happen to have some left over and then I sell it to you, is that not giving?
Yeah.
It is giving.
So before jumping to the fallacy of the week, I wanted to just for a moment bring it to the present moment in terms of what's going on, in the world today, and how we might apply the really cool tool to the present moment. So
the really cool tool we talked about yesterday. So in the podcast.
By the way, Dennis, I loved it. I had to go back over the video and I spent an hour doing it after the show and unpacking it and making sure I did my exercise. Yeah, because I loved it so much.
Wow, so nice. Oh, I love to hear that. Thank you so much. So we're experiencing the whole coronavirus thingy, and in the light of that, what we are doing right now, which is, connecting with each other in a meaningful way, is kind of really subversive, isn't it? More subversive than even before, because you're not supposed to connect, you're supposed to distance yourself socially. And so if we would have to apply the wheel to the corona situation right now, is there opportunity? Is there something that life is asking us to do, with this, don't connect, don't be close to each other? Is it maybe asking us to connect in a more meaningful, in a more purposeful way, in a different way than before, to be more aware of how we come together, of why, and what kind of, what we do out of those vast opportunities that we really have with technology being available, with us being able to communicate with so many people from across the globe. Is it maybe, looking at it from a different, from a bigger perspective, so to say, what is that situation asking us to do? What is it forcing us to do, and what kind of opportunities does it give us as individuals, but also as humanity?
Oh, you want us to respond?
Yeah, I was thinking.
If you have any idea.
I'm trying to think of I'm trying to think of like the hub, the center of this, and for some reason fear keeps coming to mind. But I want the opposite of fear. Like that's what it's supposed to be teaching us,
Confidence?
and that's how it really. Confidence?
What about
confidence?
Safety?
Trust.
Trust.
So what kind of
Trust.
opportunities in terms of
trust.
The social, the physical development, the emotional development? What kind of opportunities does this situation bring for us?
Well,
Trust.
get together.
Yeah, trust. I think I'm gonna go with trust because
Me too.
you like we cannot be overrun by fear right now. One, it kills the immune system. It's gonna kill your financial chances. If I go into someone's home every day, And my clients like to give me hugs before I leave. I have plenty of friends who work in pharmacies and retail, and they are definitely not off work.
So how would you build that trust? Trusts that somebody's not going to punch you in the face and take your groceries.
Personally,
I go extremes. Yeah,
personally, I carry when I can. So.
Well, it does make it very clear, right? Like
deterrent.
if you stay with that vibe, with that energy of fear, fearfulness, and you close up and you become tense, then it does make it very clear, because a lot of us are in that mode right now. And if you look left and right, it's not difficult to see, what that means on every level. And so maybe it is true that in order for it to get better, it has to get but worse still, because then everybody will have to understand and will have to see that what's going on if you're not able to get into a certain awareness and to take self-responsibility for the state that you're in. So I think that is an opportunity. It is dark, but every coin has two sides as well, and you wouldn't be able to appreciate the light if there wasn't darkness as well.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. That's the opportunity that we have, is they're giving us one choice to make that the new normal, and we can make our own choice. We can create another alternative that is our new normal, and then we can broadcast that out to other people.
Yeah, how can the situation improve my physicality? I'm going to do some online sessions, and my clients, I can't hug them, I can't go to them right now, they can't come to me, but I'm going to do some classes, and I'm going to get even better because now I have a little more time. I'm going to, work out with my children. What is that going to do on my emotional level? Or, maybe, talking to you, maybe I'm even freer right now to express myself emotionally as I would be if you would stand physically in front of me. So it takes away a little bit of the fear, so that, so I could come up with a few ideas for each of those spokes, how I can actually make use of that situation. And so that's, I think, just another example how you could use, the little wheel to kind of strategically figure out like how to make use of a specific situation and how to actually improve upon your journey towards the hub, towards freedom. And
yeah, I was talking to a speakers group just the other day, and they were saying, like one of the things when you're addressing a particular group of people and they're in a particular location or something like that, you can, like you could wear something from that place that makes a bond between the two of you. And it's like, oh yeah, I was in New Orleans, 6 years ago, and I still got these beads or whatever like that, and then that is like, oh, well, I'm from New Orleans and we should get together sometime, or, but that creates a whole nother connection.
Big time. Politicians learn that too.
We can just do in a matter of a moment.
Yeah, it's true. That's nice. Like those are like real life, how do you say, how do you call those skills and tricks? I use it like in many ways. Like it could be language, it could be learning, the slang, or like a few words of the local language. It could be, walking, talking, doing something that is familiar to people. So it builds bridges, right? It makes it easier for them to connect with you and to say, oh, although it's like a 6'4" tall guy, white with long hair, and he's certainly not from Jamaica and certainly not from Trenchtown, but oh, what is he doing? Oh, he's wearing like a little Rasta shorts, and so maybe it's into reggae. Oh, let me talk. so those things actually, they're small, but they make a big difference because they break the ice. And I was gonna say that even politicians have learned that as well. When they put on their little blue collar shirt, or when they speak to the doctors and they put on a white coat before.
They take their coat off and roll their sleeves up like they're actually going to do something.
Eat a corn dog.
Isn't that called pandering?
Well, that's the pandering version. But if you actually do it with real meaning, it's a whole different story.
Yeah, and it's a different energy too, because that's communicated even beyond words. If you do something with purpose and with meaning, and if your whole being, your soul is behind something, then it comes through with the words. Even there's a different quality to your expression.
Why is Tim so quiet today, you guys? I haven't heard much from Tim.
He's tired from holiday.
You never heard of sun exhaustion? I mean, look at it.
You know
You're glowing.
He is, isn't he?
I'm working from home, so I've been sitting in this room for 12 hours. Which is pretty
The
sad.
sun
"Get me
is
outta
very
here."
reflective in your area.
And I was
It's
trying
just
to
bouncing
like,
off the walls.
add quality, not quantity.
You always do.
But yes, I mean, I like the subject matter, Dennis. I think you're doing a great job with it. And I mean, this is a perfect time to kind of reflect on our values and what's important to us, and try to get more of the good stuff and shed more of the negativity. And I've been thinking about that on and off for quite some time, trying to figure out how to improve my life. And so far, I spend a lot of time online, so I have to spend the time with the people, and I miss that, and I can feel it. Having been at home for a week, some people have been at home for 2 weeks. I definitely feel the lack of interaction, and it's kind of isolating. So I appreciate having you all to join with. And if you want to come over to my house tomorrow night, I'll cook out.
Wow, sweet.
Wait.
I take you up on that.
We'll come on
They
Zoom.
let me.
I'm like, I think I'm probably the closest. I'm actually considering getting on my map and being like, what's your address? How far away is it?
Come on over.
16 hours.
Virtual cookout.
I've
But
had
it,
to. I've
Sorry.
really struggled the last couple weeks with the social connection. Like, I actually even got a little snappy with my D&D group because they just were like, "Hey, we're not gonna do D&D this week," and I was like,
The hell, we're not.
Can't you do it on Zoom?
You too.
well, they wanted to do that, but then I was like, all of us on Zoom trying to role play and rolling dice, and
People
don't-
do it all the time.
well, yeah, but this is our first time, and I was like, no, you can't leave. You can't just leave me hanging. And I got a little snappy, and I was like, if you guys want to cancel, that's fine. Just give me a heads up so I can prepare myself to be alone this weekend.
Oh, that's like a sting. That's like a sting.
No one's
right in the
responded yet, so
They're just
I
gonna
think-
let that go. She's upset.
they're gonna be like, oh, okay, she's having a
Willow,
time.
you're like an hour and a half from
Yeah.
the beach, so if there's an open beach, go down there and check it out. Take
It's
Kurt.
true. I should probably, before they start like arresting you for leaving the house, you know.
Take advantage.
Yeah.
We're going to
So
be
in
patrolling the
finalizing-
beaches with helicopters. Go ahead.
I saw videos of that. I saw helicopters stalking people off of a beach. I was like, did you have nothing better to do? You're wasting so much gas.
So in finalizing the week of finding freedom, one of the core messages for me would have been that, finding freedom is not. It's actually, I don't have to go anywhere. I don't have to really do anything much. It's not, I don't have to, sit in a cave. I don't have to have millions of dollars, but it's nice to have that and to do that as well, might be for some of us. But really, like, finding freedom, well, actually, we can find it right here and right now, with our families, even right here on that podcast. That I think is one of the core messages really, like, I want to send. It's like, wow, if we take the right posture, then we can find it right here and right now. We wouldn't have to make a move. We wouldn't have to change anything, but it's right there, in a child smiling. It's that, in us going outside in the garden, doing what we love to do, doing some gardening, or, I don't know, spending time with our wife.
Or
going
saying
online.
hello to friends. Dolce Williams wants to say hello to you, Dallas, so you might as well wave to her.
Or
Well,
just
Juan
look
de
at how
Gaza.
happy. Look at how happy all the dogs are in the last 2 weeks.
Oh my god. My
That
dog
makes
is
me
running.
happy.
Every day at lunch, my dog gets a run, and she's just thrilled. So, very
Yeah.
thrilled.
Sweet. So there's opportunity, and there's opportunity to be free and to free ourselves and others as well through that in every moment, I would say. And if anybody would like to get this exercise and a little tool sent to his or her email box, feel free to check out the website and just put your email there, and then within the next few days that will be up, and you will be one of the first to get that. And I will really appreciate your feedback, and I hope it can be valuable to you. So the website is my full name spelled out. That's Dennis Eckhart, DennisEckart.de. And you can just put your email address there if you wish so, and then As soon as the tool is up, I will send it to you. And then we also, we will add a link, I guess at a later date, to below the videos, and then link that as well. But to finalize today's podcast, we still have the fallacy of the week.
Oh, the fallacy. That's my job.
Yeah. And the fallacy is called
Ta-da!
appeal to ignorance. Appeal to ignorance. Anybody heard from me about ignorance before?
I see this one all the time.
It's for Michael. It's for you, Michael.
Is that similar to appeal to authority? I've actually never heard appeal to ignorance. I don't know why you would ever appeal to ignorance. That doesn't make any logical sense.
So
I have an example for
hang on. So in the image, we have two rabbits. They're looking up in the sky and they're pointing at the something. And one says, look, it's a strange beam of light moving through the sky. I don't know what it is, so it must be aliens. That's appeal to ignorance. You don't know what it is, so it must be something. And you draw a conclusion from nothing.
Yeah.
So that basically is appeal to authority. You don't know. This person claims to know. They must have the authority to know.
No one knows, therefore we know.
It's
Hi, Colleen.
Well, it's really lacking any proof. So it could just be, well, God said it, or, any
Blind
of those
faith.
kind of things.
I had this example, especially for you, Michael. It's like, it's impossible to live in peace and harmony without government and without having a ruler, because I can't imagine it, and it has never been done. It's unheard of. It's not possible.
That's right. I can't imagine it, and so it doesn't exist.
Yeah, that's a different quality of that appeal to ignorance. Yeah.
As a voluntarist, I have heard that numerous times, and it really...
Look at your face.
Oh, yeah. I'm trying to think of a much catchier phrase than "it gets my goat," because I hate that phrase. But for some reason, I'm just like, yeah, all right, that grinds my gears. That's the one I like. That really grinds my gears. I don't like it when people are like, well, I can't imagine it, so I don't know. They do that with when you're experiencing a traumatic trigger. I say they as a general, but I mean people who don't understand. And they're like, well, I've never had that feeling, so you must be making that up. And I'm like, I want to scream expletives at you right now, but we're in a public place, so...
Yes. Yeah.
So this interesting that it's reversible. So it's assuming that a claim is true because it has not or cannot be proven false, or assuming that a claim is false because it has not or cannot be proven true. So it's reversible. Yeah.
Now I understand the difference between appeal to authority and appeal to ignorance. That makes a lot more sense now.
It points out also that the burden of proof lies with the one who makes the claim.
I like that, Dennis. I've used that before in quite a few arguments.
Yeah, that's a good rebuttal. Yeah.
So if I say, Bigfoot must be true because it has been proven false. That's
and I say prove it.
To ignorance. Yeah. Or Bigfoot isn't true because, or it is true because people have seen it.
Bigfoot is true because once I was in the woods and I had a really strong impression that it was looking at me. And therefore I am sure 100% it's true because I had a very strong impression.
I also wanted to put a little plug in for next week's.
Are you going to remind us of our homework too? Because I have no idea what I'm supposed to do.
Agnieszka, we've had this conversation. Why do you always ask for homework?
No, he's already given us homework last week, and he expects us to do it for next week.
And you're just there to remind him.
And as a Sagittarius, I know you have no idea what this homework is.
It's a fallacy. It's called appeal to homework.
How dare you?
Because I'm one too.
I'm just gonna let Mike continue on and explain what our homework is, since you want to know so bad.
Well, on Monday, next week we're going to tackle the solutions of the things that we were made aware of last week. We talked about the trauma economy. We talked about the fear of death, and the third one, it escapes me at the moment. Does anybody want to try and chime in on that? Our last Thursday's
The art
topic.
of communication.
Yeah, the art of
Communication,
communication.
the art of, yeah.
So the big one I think I've got to redeem myself on is Wednesday's show in regard to the eulogy or planning your funeral kind of thing. But I think it is going to be one that's going to be very powerful. And so the Monday is we're talking about the trauma economy, solutions and skill sets. And Wednesday we'll be doing the same on the fear of death and how that could effectively change things. And then, of course, the same thing with the art of communication.
So
which,
fear
as a matter
of
of fact,
death.
I've got Amanda coming back on Thursday.
Oh, that's awesome. But fear of death was our least popular episode to date, so you're going to do it again. I love it. Good thinking.
Yeah, well, I'm going to
reinvent itself.
We got it wrong, so we're just going to do it
make
longer,
it
harder,
worthwhile.
faster, stronger, louder.
Hey, if you fail fast, that's what I'm trying to do, is fail fast and deliver value. So we've got that to look forward to next week.
All right. I can't believe Colleen stayed up this late to watch us. She's a good wife, Dennis.
I know. I bet she sent the image too.
She did, but I couldn't set it up because when I tried, my desktop showed for a second and I was like, oh shit, no. And so I have it. But we will share the image on our Facebook and we will stick the link underneath the description for this episode.
Muy bien.
Muy bien.
So thank you very much, everybody. I hope this was an interesting week, and I hope the things that we have been discussing and your valuable input has been helping us as a group, each other, but especially also our listeners to find freedom and to advance on their journey, and gave them some inspiration and maybe a helpful perspective on their way. And I'm always happy for feedback, and we may also always use the website where I offer actually like a half an hour strategy session for free. So where I'll be happy to individually guide you through the exercises or help you in any other way possible. So thank you very much, all of you, for being here and for sticking with us, for sharing your valuable time with us, and for continuing on our journey to free ourselves and help each other along the way. Thank you so much. With that being said, bye-bye.
And tune in next week for the trauma economy, fear of death, and communication.
7 p.m.
7:30 p.m.
7:30
p.m. Eastern North America time. Standard.
Don't let your fear of death keep you from viewing the episode.
The episodes on
Don't
death.
be that guy.
Because we're not morose. We really aren't morose. We're
Or
quite
be that guy.
helpful and easygoing.
There's going to be a positive out of that. Yeah.
There's positives.
A big
Lots of
positive.
positives. Okay, I'm gonna stop streaming now. I'm playing the outro now.
Screaming. Bye,
Okay.
everybody. We're so happy you attended.